Every visitor to Rome photographs this. The arches, the broken rim, the hole in the middle where the floor used to be. And almost every one of them asks the same question. How many people died in here? There is a better question. Who paid for it? The Colosseum has almost no paperwork, no architect, no budget, no list of the men who laid the stone. What it has is a block of gray marble, 4 meters long, pulled out of the ruin in 1813. Carved on its face is an inscription from the 5th century, a Roman official taking credit for repairs after an earthquake. But the 5th century did not carve into blank stone. It erased something first. Under the visible text, the surface is pitted with small holes, 67 of them. Because the original dedication was never carved. It was spelled out in bronze letters, each one pegged into the marble. The bronze was stripped and melted centuries ago. The pegs left holes. The holes are the inscription. In 1995, an epigrapher named Geza Alfoldi sat down with those 67 holes and read them. He worked it like a lock. Letter shapes against hole positions, line lengths, letters 20 centimeters high. This is what came out. Ex manubiis, from the spoils of war. And there is one more thing. Around the emperor's name, the holes cluster too tightly, as if letters had been pulled out and reset. Vespasian died before the building opened. His son inserted his own name into his father's dedication. You can still see where he made the space. The spoils of war. Which war? In the summer of the year 70, legions under Titus broke into Jerusalem, and the Second Temple burned. The man who wrote the account was standing with the Romans, a Judean commander who had surrendered and changed sides, Josephus. His numbers are almost certainly too big. Historians read them as scale, not arithmetic. But the scale is the point. Josephus says so much gold came out of Judea that the price of gold in Syria fell by half. In 71, father and son held a triumph. The temple treasure went through the streets of Rome. The lampstand, the golden table, a scroll of the law. 10 years later, that procession was cut into an arch 300 meters from here. It is still standing. Most people walk straight past it. The prisoners were sorted. Judean captives died in the arenas of Caesarea and Beirut within a year of the war. That much is documented. And then there is the story everybody repeats, that 100,000 Jewish slaves built the Colosseum. No ancient source says it, not one. The number is Josephus's captive total, lifted out of his book and attached to a building site. The historian Samuele Rocca calls it a legend. Most of those prisoners would have been dead years before the amphitheatre opened. There is also this. The man who commissioned this building turned down a labor-saving machine because it would put Romans out of work. The honest version is narrower than the legend, and stranger. The hands were probably paid. The money was not. The Colosseum is a war memorial, built by the winners out of what they took. It opened in the year 80 with 100 days of games. 2 Roman writers describe the same festival, and they do not agree. Which tells you something. Nobody was auditing this. They were competing. Lions, leopards, bears, elephants, crocodiles, ostriches, a rhinoceros, cranes made to fight each other, 4 elephants set against one another. None of it lived anywhere near Rome. Every animal here began as a logistics problem thousands of kilometers away. A pit dug in North Africa, a cage on a cart, a ship. Most of them died on the way. There is a letter from 50 years before Christ, a Roman governor out in what is now Turkey, writing home about a shipment of panthers. In 2025, archaeologists published a single foreleg bone from an amphitheatre on the Danube in what is now Serbia. The DNA said leopard, male, African. The radiocarbon put him between 240 and 350 AD. An African leopard killed in a Balkan arena 1700 years ago. That is how far the supply chain reached. What it cost the animals is harder to prove than most documentaries admit. In all of Roman Carthage, not one lion bone has ever been found. But the drift is there in the sources. Fewer lions and leopards as the centuries go on. More bears, more boar, more deer. Rome was working through whatever it could still reach. Which brings us back to the hole in the middle of the floor. The arena you are looking at is not there. It was a wooden deck under a layer of sand. Harina. That is where the word arena comes from. Take the deck away and you are looking into the hypogeum. 2 stories of brick corridors running underneath the show. It was not part of the original building. It was cut in within a few years of the opening, most likely under Domitian. A German archaeologist named Heinz Jürgen Beste spent 14 years surveying it, by hand, drawing it, not scanning it. What he was reading was wear, notches, grooves worn into brick, semicircular bites cut out of the walls. The bites were cut to let something swing. Beste reconstructed 60 capstans down there. Vertical winches, 2 stories tall, 8 men to turn one. Around the rim, 28 small platforms, each rising to its own trapdoor in the arena floor. 40 larger ones for scenery. The cages set the limit. Nothing bigger than a lion would fit. In 2014, a team built one. Full scale, Roman tools, timber cut in the Sabina Hills, 7 meters tall, 2 tons. They loaded a wolf into it and turned the capstan. A wild animal came up through a trapdoor into the Colosseum for the first time in 1,500 years. Run all 28 at once, and there are 200 men underneath that floor, in the dark, turning cranks, waiting for a cue they cannot see. The show was above. The machine was below. Almost nobody in that crowd ever saw the part that actually worked. Almost everything you think you know about this place is 19th century. Thumbs down for death. No Roman writer anywhere describes the gesture. The image comes from a painting by Jerome in 1872. Christians martyred in this arena. There is no evidence any ever were. The medieval pilgrim guides to Rome do not mention it. It is not even named for its size. It is named after a bronze statue of Nero that Hadrian had dragged next door. 24 elephants, according to one source. The statue is long gone. The nickname stayed. The last games recorded here were beast hunts in the year 523. By permission of a Gothic king, 47 years after the last Western emperor was deposed. The building outlived the empire that needed it. Then earthquakes, 847, 1349, when the south wall came down and the rubble became Rome's quarry. The pop marks all over the stone are not weathering. They are the holes left when the iron clamps were chiseled out for reuse. For 300 years, it was a fortress, a quarry, and a garden. In 1855, a botanist published a catalog of the plants growing wild inside it. One theory, unproven and far too good to leave out, is that some of those seeds arrived in the fur of animals shipped in from Africa. The plants were scraped out in the restorations. They are gone too. What finally stopped the demolition was a pope. In 1749, Benedict XIV declared the ruin sanctified by the blood of the martyrs and banned the quarrying. The martyrdom almost certainly never happened. The building is standing because of it. A dedication with no letters, a war that paid for it, a machine nobody was meant to see, and a legend that saved it from the quarrymen. You can walk down into the Hypogeum now. They opened it to the public in 2021. Stand down there, and the thing above your head stops being a monument. It is a receipt,